Hello, my dear human beings. My name is Dmitry Tarakanov. I am a violin maker and throat singer from Moscow, Russia. And today I want to share with you our conversation with Michael Geiger, a person who's done all the throat singing for the Dune movie directed by Denis Villeneuve, including, of course, the famous Sardaukar chant, for which he shares a co-creator credits with Hans Zimmer. Michael is a musician, voice actor, and a studio session singer. He has been a concert and recording artist, producer, and arranger in the Los Angeles area over the past 4 decades. He has been working with John Williams, Danny Elfman, David Newman, and many other great composers. You can hear his voice in more than 250 movies, including Spider-Man, Star Wars, The Matrix, Avatar, The Sixth Sense, The Lion King, Venom, you name it. I'm really excited to share my conversation with this wonderful artist with you. So please enjoy. My first question to Michael was about his development as a musician and about the time when he moved from Michigan to California. And then we began the recording.
I remember the first day I was inside of a vocal harmony. It was September, I'm going to say 6th, 1971. And I was in my high school choir and we were singing our national anthem, and I was singing tenor.
Mm-hmm.
And I sang 4-part harmony for the very first time. And I, after that experience, I went home and I was stunned
Mm.
what that felt like to sing inside of a harmony like that. So I got hit by the bug immediately. I don't know why. And so I spent my high school days singing everything I could sing, musicals, barbershop harmony, classical choral harmonies, and all that kind of stuff. And as I grew, my voice dropped, and so by the time I got to college, I was singing bass. I had some friends who were in a folk band. Uh, it was a duo actually, and we went to my tenor friend, and I went to listen to this girl and her guitar player playing at a club in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Kalamazoo,
Yeah.
Kalamazoo. What a cat! Yeah, I was actually born in that town.
I saw that.
Um, yeah, and so we went to hear them, and we liked them so much that I was a classical guitar
Mm-hmm.
trained on classical guitar since I was 8 years old,
Mm.
and I knew how to play, James Taylor and all this kind of stuff. I was playing a little bit of that with myself, and I combined it with these people, and we had a band in Kalamazoo for a year and a half while I was in college, and we got to the point where we were playing and singing harmonies in clubs in Kalamazoo, and we just decided to leave. And the girl in our band, Debbie, she's like my sister. I don't have a sister, but she's the closest thing I'll ever have to a sister. And she said, I know some people in California. Let's go. So we did. We piled up into 2 cars, piled all of our equipment in 2 cars, and drove from Michigan all the way out to California
Nice.
in August of 1978. I quit school, much to the consternation of my parents. My parents, I now, after having children and all that, and then speaking to my mother, who's still alive, they were absolutely terrified that I was moving to California.
I can imagine.
We were visiting clubs and met a guy, and a guy hooked us up with gigs, and all of a sudden we were working within I would say within 2 or 3 weeks of being in California, we were working 5 nights a week,
That's great.
and we were playing folk rock type stuff.
Did you do something in particular to move your voice from tenor to bass, or it just happened naturally?
It just happened.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the voice, and now I know I'm a voice, I'm not a scientist, but I teach vocal pedagogy at my college here. And so I'm part of the voice science world. And, the male voice doesn't really mature until right around the age of 30, between 30 and 35.
Mm.
30, 33 is the Metropolitan Opera cutoff, for for male voices, and that's when the voice really matures. So Yeah, it took me several years for it to go from tenor to bass, but I was singing bass with my band for
Mhm.
the whole time. I mean, the lower parts anyway. So after that band sort of fizzled, I was looking around for other things to do. So I got a I don't know how it happened. I got a job working at Disneyland,
No.
singing bass in the
Ah.
barbershop quartet there, the Dapper Dans. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I spent quite a few years at Disneyland,
Mhm.
working my craft, doing a little soft shoe and singing bass. And that was when I really had to learn how to use the bass voice, because out on the street,
Oh, yeah.
you have to learn, I
Without
have
any
a bunch.
amplification, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I have a bunch of low Fs I need to sing today, and I need to figure out how to project them.
Mhm.
And so I learned that through, through that real work.
Mhm.
During that time, I made some other friendships, and the baritone in the Dapper Dans, and I decided, okay, we're going to join up with my former friends, and we're going to create a jazz group.
Mhm.
So yeah, I moved from the barbershop thing.
Mhm.
Um, and went back to school, finished my degree in vocal performance in
Mhm.
Irvine here in California, and did classical studies.
Mhm.
And then somewhere around years later, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go to summer camp and learn about opera. So
Mhm.
I did that, and then I joined the Los Angeles Opera Chorus in 1993 and the Los Angeles Master Chorale right around the same time. So I spent 20 years just doing that and the other things that I was doing. So I was doing a zillion different things all at once to make my living.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh.
but the throat singing thing didn't really happen for me until I had to audition as the throat singer for a movie called The Nun. And at that time, I was still just working out the Kargira
Mhm.
sound, which is the sound that I'm really interested in. The guys who do the, that whole,
Sigit.
uh, yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
I wasn't interested in that, because I could sort of do it, but it wasn't what I was interested in. My ears didn't lead me in
Mhm.
that direction. So Kargira was the one that I thought, okay, I know what's going on there. That's the false chords being rattled. The vestibular vocal cords, using those.
Yep.
But the problem was, to my mind, was how do you get those vestibular cords to move with less air, because it takes a
Mhm.
lot of air to get those chords to move and to hold a note out for longer than maybe 8 seconds or so.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, I'm going to have to work that out. So I approached it from a mechanical point of view, a technical
Mhm.
point of view. And I thought, okay. And I found this guy on YouTube who just said, start with a clearing of your throat,
Mhm.
and then just do it with a closed boca chiusa,
Mhm.
closed mouth, for a few weeks.
Mhm.
And do
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So I was clear, and I clear my throat all the time.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh yeah, okay, it's just a sustained version of that,
Yep.
right? And so seemed easy to me to
Mhm.
figure out how to do that. The problem was, okay, how do you move that note? You,
Mhm.
change pitch with that thing. That's a big challenge.
It's kind of counterintuitive because, like, in general singing, you vary your tone just with your regular vocal cords. But with Kargra and this kind of throat singing, in my understanding, you vary the tone with the amount of air that you push.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, it just.
yeah. It's and what the way I'm teaching it now is, some of my boys at school want to learn how to do this because of who I am. Now everybody's going, "Oh, teach me how to do." So I'm doing that now, and it's always comes down to, okay, efficiency, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, the word efficiency describes exactly what you said. How much air you're using,
Mhm.
and how do you get that sound to be as efficient as possible? Use
Mhm.
as little air as possible to get those things rattling.
Yeah.
And so that's really the trick. besides taking a full lungful of air, So yeah, so that's where I'm at now, and I've retired from the opera and retired from master chorale and I've retired from stage singing, and now I'm sitting at my desk with my, you know,
Yep.
my sort of half put together
Studio.
uh, studio. I have to get some more panels to go on this side and finish this wall back here, but
Mhm.
I'm now studying voice acting and stuff like that. So I'm one of these people that I'm constantly reinventing myself. But this throat singing thing seems to have made a difference in my life.
That's cool.
I, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting that the majority of memes online about like the Sardaukar chant is about how Mongolian it is, and I guess probably because like people from Mongolia, from Tuva, did plenty of touring in the US and did a good job popularizing their music. But if we like think about chanting, and especially if we think about like the throat singing with more chest resonator, like my closest association is actually Tibetan throat singing. There is not too much chanting going on like in Tuvan or Mongolian throat singing. But if we listen to Lama Tashi or Gyuta monks, or like any kind of Tibetan monks, it's a lower throat singing, more chest,
Yeah,
and more chant.
more of a drone type thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
And
I,
that's an interesting difference too, isn't it? I mean, I think
yeah,
a lot of those guys they're not they're not necessarily doing that. They're
yeah,
doing the um, subharmonics, right?
Strapas. Well, like so, like
Is that so you're using your false vocal cords when you're doing that?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
plenty of breathing and false vocal cords. Yeah.
This is interesting to me, and you just demonstrated something that I haven't addressed this in my thinking yet, but the way those guys get that sustain is by occluding um, the the tube,
Mhm.
So what you're doing with your lips is you're stopping some of the air
Mhm.
from leaving. So some of that acoustic feedback goes back
Mhm.
onto the chords, right? This is called the nonlinear voice filter theory or whatever. So
Mhm.
that theory says that yes, the more you close this space here,
Mhm.
the more of that acoustic energy will bounce back and actually help the vocal cords
Mhm.
be more efficient.
But
Yeah,
they
yeah,
thinking pretty high, so around G, I guess. So
yeah,
it's a lot
yeah,
a lot easier to sustain it long.
yeah, yeah. And my pitch when I was working with Hans was I my pitch seemed to settle at a right in there.
Mhm.
Is that an A? I don't
Yeah,
remember now.
yeah,
Hang on a second.
it's a
But since then, it's been a year now. It's
mhm.
more than a year since I made those sounds for him.
Mhm.
So my voice sort of has settled down to the G.
Mhm.
So my voice is more comfortable at the G.
Mhm.
So who knows what's going to happen? I have no idea. I don't practice this very. I
Mhm.
sing. I make the sounds every day
Mhm.
just to sort of keep it. And
Yeah.
my wife has to say, you're doing that in public, right? Because
I
I'll be
don't
at a
I don't
restaurant
care anymore. Yeah.
drinking some sake at a Japanese restaurant, and I went, and then some people at the table next to me went, "What are you doing?" And my wife
Yeah.
goes, Oh man, you're in public. Don't do that.
And every
So
time when I hear some kind of mechanical noise, I have to sing with that too.
yeah, yeah, right, right. So when you're in the bathroom, or when
Yeah.
my bathroom has a sympathetic
Oh yeah,
low
the
frequency,
same with mine.
So
Yeah, I love that.
try to match that with your. It's fun. It's fun. I love it. I've been doing that my whole life with my modal voice. When I went back to school this last time, I discovered about myself that I am at the level of my soul. I'm a minimalist.
Mhm.
I studied Conrad Young and Arvo Pärt, other post minimalists who have sustained that sensibility throughout their career. Steve Reich, Terry Riley, and the style of singing that you and I are talking about right now falls right into that category,
Yeah, it's all about the
doesn't it?
timbre, right?
Yeah, it's all about timbre and sound
Hmm.
and what's inside of that,
Yeah.
right? And that's where I am too. I was raised with Gregorian chant. I'm raised Catholic, and so I've spent a lot of time chant.
Hmm.
And now, what gives me the most pleasure in my life after singing zillions of different styles my entire life, anywhere from rock and roll to vocal jazz to opera chorus to classical concert chorus stuff. The thing that brings me the most pleasure is monody,
Hmm. Yeah,
one voice.
that's
You know,
the roots. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm at that place in my life where that actually is the thing that really, really gives me the greatest satisfaction. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I also like to get more into like the Greek monody, because like the whole European system, when the whole drama of the music based on just consonants and dissonance is a little bit boring. But if you get if,
Predictable, yes.
yeah, the muezzins singing, for example, is just a totally
Sure.
different idea. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it is actually the sound of nature too, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, of course.
it's the reason. What if I can just take a moment? Somebody asked me about what my mindset was when I was making these sounds for Dune,
Hmm.
because Denis had said, uh, Denis Villeneuve, we were in a conference call, and he said he was looking for a chant, and I said, okay, whatever that means, right? So he said, okay, Hans, you decide how that chant's going to sound and all that, because he's had the scene in mind, and
Hmm.
he's very specific. He said 83-second scene in the middle of the movie, and I said, okay. So Hans goes, okay, just go. And I said, go. And he said, yeah, just improvise. So I made 30 stems for him. And then I was just kind of doing all kinds of things and deciding for myself what this was going to sound like. And what I had to think about was something philosophical, which is, okay, I know that there are certain cultures in Central Asia that make this sound as part of their culture, and it's um, and I studied northern Hindustani music and the raga, that kind of thing, and then I went out and I studied the music of the Mongolians and the uh, Kyrgyz, all that stuff out there. And when I came on the Kargira, I thought, that's a sound. The reason I'm interested in that sound is because that's a sound that anybody can make.
Yep.
It's one of the most basic human sounds,
Hmm.
right? We all do that.
Yeah.
And to just extend that's not necessarily just a cultural thing. It's actually a physiological response
Yep.
taken to an artistic level, right?
Hmm.
And that was where my thinking was. I thought, okay, I'm not doing anything that's could be considered to be cultural appropriation or anything like that, because that was not my interest. I wasn't interested in sounding like Tuva or
Yeah.
sounding like Tibet, or anything like that. I was interested in creating sounds that 10,000 years from now,
Yeah, exactly.
it could be conceived that we're still making that sound.
Yeah.
just in a different way, right? So that's where my head was at when I was doing this. I
Yeah,
was
I guess
thinking, okay.
you got that what you aimed for, totally.
Well, it wasn't just me. I mean, you see on the end of the movie, I share writing credits. It's just Hans and me have the writing credit that we share for the chant song itself. But Hans took these stems and just kind of went boom, boom, just stuck them all together. He asked me to say some words. You can, if you listen really close, you can hear me saying Atreides. You can hear me say Harkonnen
Mhm.
and all these other names. He stuck
Mhm.
them in there too in one of the iterations of my of the chant song.
Mhm.
So, and then he's got me doing some whispering and stuff like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think he played anything. You had mentioned something about maybe sounding
Yeah.
like it played backwards, and
Mhm.
I don't think so. I think it was just a series of edits, and he told me over the phone, said, we are going down to the wavelength
Mhm.
on a lot of your sounds.
That's really
He's
cool.
yeah, I was sitting at home trying to produce this stuff for him. He says, hey, don't worry about it, just send me raw sounds, because
Mhm.
I and my people are taking every sound you make and going right down to the wavelength, and cutting
Yeah,
and putting things together. So that's what he was doing at the
that's
other end, and he
impressive.
was doing it in real time too. I was like sending him a stem, and 5 minutes later he's working on it in his studio in Beverly Hills.
Mhm.
I said, Hans, don't you just want me to come up there? He goes, no, 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 it's not necessary. It's just an hour away from where I live. It's up in Beverly Hills.
Oh,
So, and he had me use
oh,
a measurement microphone. It's for tuning rooms, and it's a completely flat response. So he said, yeah, send me those sounds if you
hmm.
can get it as dry as possible. So I did this kind of thing, and then I just sent all my sounds through this microphone, and then his guys manipulated it.
Yes,
You know,
the reverse thing, there's not many information online about the Sardaukar chant, and like people were trying to figure out how it's made, and there are several places online where people assume that somewhere it's reversed, but then when I was listening it reversed, I couldn't, it didn't sound more normal reversed that it.
no, not like I buried Paul or whatever the Beatles did.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So so no, no, I don't think
Mm.
now take you should even take what I say with a grain of salt, as we say,
Mm.
because I was in touch with the guys who were dealing with my sounds,
Mhm.
but I wasn't in the room when he was actually doing
Yeah,
it, so
yeah,
I couldn't tell
yeah,
you,
I understand.
actually what he was doing. But that's my assumption. So I'm figuring that my assumption is pretty close to the truth,
Mhm.
but but to really know, you'd have to be sitting in the room with him to see what he was like, what he was doing. But
Yeah.
it's very processed. So, but when I'm listening to myself doing this sound, I'm going, there's a lot of what I sent him that was not processed at all. Didn't
Mm.
sound like it. I mean, I'm sure it was, but it sounds real still. It sounds like
Mhm.
there's a real dude making these sounds.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you, for a year I was going, wow, I wonder what this is going to sound like. And then when I finally heard it in the theater, I went, oh, it's really way more real than I thought it was
Mm.
going to be,
That's cool.
which was really, really nice to hear. My wife was sitting next to me. She says, man, I can't believe this. And if you go see the movie in the theaters, the very first sound,
I did. Yeah, yeah. This is it.
that's me. And I
Voice.
just slid down in my chair and I went, wow, what are we in for here?
Cool.
So it was a pretty amazing feeling to
Yes,
be in the
impressive.
theater while that was happening. So
So, Michael, many Dune fans know that the languages for the movie were constructed by David J. Peterson, but as far as I understand, the Sardaukar chant in particular is all on you. Am I right?
yeah, because I mean that's why I have co-writing credit
Uh-huh.
on the movie. It's because all the sounds you hear were improvised by me,
Uh-huh.
and they were constructed for the movie by Hans. So we share share writing credit for that particular thing. And when we met with Hans on the day of actually making the sound over the phone with him, and he said, "Oh, Michael," he goes, "Michael, you are no one here thinks you are a nice person." But it was shortly after that, during our first session, he says, "Yeah, we're not using this made up language. It just doesn't do what we want it to do," because he wanted it to be more organic and more have a more improvised feel. And I think Denis was part of that decision as well. And I'll say to you, like I've said to some other people on YouTube, and stop me if you've read my credo on this.
I've read some, but please, yeah.
What have you? Well, okay. So my mindset going in was, this is it's a battle chant.
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yep.
And you read? So did you read what I wrote about that?
Quarterback and the consonants taken out of that.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to make very clear about that because that was my actor's mindset was, okay, what's happening in 10,000 years in the future? These people have gotten very powerful over time, and so if you, I don't know if you're associated with church music at all, but at the end of a Gregorian chant, sometimes you'll see the letters. You'll see E, A, O, A, or something like that. And it's just a shorthand notation for the end of the Gloria Patri. But it's a shorthand for the words that are supposed to be happening at the end of that particular psalm, chant, or whatever. And I thought, aha, that's it. That is we could take that into the future. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking these soldiers have been trained to understand a certain pattern of vowel sounds to mean a certain thing.
So it's like mantra in a sense.
Yeah.
Some kind of packed information.
Yes. Yeah. And I use the word encoded.
Yeah, encoded, exactly.
Because someone outside the culture wouldn't understand it at all. And there's a reason for that. Obviously, it's a strategic reason for that. So you don't want your enemy to know what you're saying, so encode it in your battle chant. And that's where I was when I was creating these sounds. I was going, okay, I need to remove consonants and what to do technically and mechanically to achieve that idea, right? So so I was removing consonants, just dealing with a lot of vowel sounds, and occasionally a couple of plosive consonants to get the sound started, like a b, or to say at the end like a mo, or is it the X sound that you guys make really, really well. You have that in your language quite a bit, so I don't like that sound because there's a guttural aspect to it that is really, really human, very human. And I thought, just go with as much visceral humanity as possible. So that's where all these sounds came from. And I, like I said, I made probably in total 50 2-minute stems from which they drew all of this information, because it wasn't just Hans. And then it was after the two I got a call a few months later saying, hey, would you do that same thing for the soundtrack? Because the people who construct the soundtracks are Hans's people, but it's a different department. So and I'm used to working in soundtracks, so I was surprised when I got a call from the soundtrack people saying, hey, would you do the thing? And I thought, oh, I already did. But no, apparently what I did for Hans, that's going strictly in the movie. So it's two different things. Yeah. So I spent a couple days doing the same thing for the soundtrack people that I did for Hans for the film. It was quite exciting, actually, I have to say.
Yeah, it's really great. And I, even before going to the movie, I saw on the YouTube there was like the Sardaukar chant, and like I glimpsed. I didn't watch the whole thing because I didn't want any spoilers, but we already knew that will be some kind of throat singing going on in the movie. And when I get there and just heard the intro made by you, it was just like, so good. And then every single time when I heard Stroll singing in the movie, it was just honey to my ears. So great.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you hear you say that.
Yeah.
It's hard to it's hard to get an objective perspective, and I like hearing I like hearing that because I go, well, yeah, okay, I guess that was I think, and that'll help. I mean, if they call me to be involved in the next film,
Mhm.
it'll be a even more focused perspective that I have
Mhm.
when I work. Or they might just take stuff that I've already done and
Mhm.
I might not have to do any of it again, But
Mhm.
that, I mean, that's my hope and dream is that I get a phone call eventually saying, "Hey, we're doing the next movie," blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's I'm fine with what's happened so far.
Cool.
I could end my career right now and I'd be a happy man. So
Great.
yeah.
In my point of view, what's really cool about like the whole Sardaukar chant, like if you take the throat singing in comparison with normal talking timbre, it's kind of sacred. Like even in the cultures where it can be used in people's music, like in tuba, for example, it's majorly used in shamanism or speaking to nature, to spirits and stuff. And like in Tibet, for example, it's exclusively used only in temples.
In the temple, yeah.
So, and you can compare that with special kind of font or handwriting, of course, like in Hebrew calligraphy or in Islamic or even in Russian Bible, there is a special kind of handwriting that was used exclusively for sacred texts. So
Right.
the same kind of, so for documents and for letters, people used one kind of type handwriting, and for sacred texts, a special sacred kind, the same with throat singing. And like with the Sardaukar chant, like throat singing by itself is already uh, uh, weird and interesting and otherworldly enough, but then it's constructed language and then this weird rhythm, and that what makes it like totally
Yeah, yeah. Well,
great,
you struck
great
on
piece of
something.
art. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I, I was just as surprised to hear the end result as
Mhm,
anyone else,
mhm.
But you struck on something that I wanted to mention also. You said sacred language,
Yeah.
and I do a lot. I do quite a lot of work with Hebrew
Mhm,
here. Um, with my friends in the Jewish community. So every year the high holy days come around and I'm there, I'm singing with them. And what I know about Torah is that when you I'm doing it opposite for you. So when you're reading, the words don't have vowels,
mhm. Oh yeah, good example.
right? So
Yeah.
that was in my consciousness too when I was doing this. I was going, okay,
Oh,
something is removed.
that's
Something
nice.
is, yeah, something is reverent about this. And their one of their most reverent things is to not put the vowel in the word God.
Mhm.
Even when I'm speaking in email with my Jewish friends and they mention the word God, they say G/D,
Uh-huh.
right?
Mhm.
Because that's part of their ritual,
Yep.
is to not include. So that, yeah, that went into. Thank you for reminding me about that because that was something that I had been thinking as well.
Yeah, cool. I'm happy
Yeah,
that we
yeah, yeah,
that my thoughts rhymed with your
yeah.
consent of that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate you bringing all this stuff up with me, Dimitri, too, because it's as an actor,
Mhm,
this needs to be forward in your consciousness,
mhm,
right? And it needs to be thoughtful,
mhm,
especially if there's reverence involved,
mhm,
right? And that's why I think this is an important film too, because there there was a lot of reverence
mhm.
at least at my end. And I know that Denis was almost religious about the way he was going to
Yeah.
render this film, right?
Mhm.
Nobody expected this. I mean, well, people who knew him expected that it was going to be good, but they didn't realize how much, and Hans too, how
Mhm.
much reverence they had for the source material, because it's so dense and thick.
Mhm.
And how do you deal with that? Well, you deal with it respectfully, actually, is the best thing. So there's respect and reverence
Yeah,
all
for
across
sure.
the spectrum, you know. So yeah, I appreciate you saying those words, because it reminds us, uh, you know, if you want to create something that's artful, you have to have respect for the art.
For
And
sure.
you know, so
And
yeah,
right now, I thought that the movie language might be a little bit like throat singing. So, not much of the tonal movement, but plenty of texture and timbre, like the quality of the picture instead
yeah,
of
right.
just effects. Yep.
Yeah, well, it's very, the whole look of the movie is very grainy and dry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the contrast between grainy and dry of Arrakis, and
Mhm.
then the rain planet of
Alice Secundus, yeah.
Salos Secundus, it's really striking, isn't it? The contrast between the wet and dry. And if you listen to Skarsgård
Mhm.
speak, half of his lines he speaks, you know, he speaks that
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
I was found that very interesting as well.
I liked a lot, yeah, what you were saying about using throat singing without any bound to any nation or culture, because in my understanding, it's really an art, or if you look at the history of the development of human language, the core was the throat, and then the language was building with smaller articulations from lips and tongue and stuff. So at one point of our history, we all were using throat talking and throat singing. So I guess when we hear throat singing, it's so natural because it triggers something in our spine, in our genetic memory, because everybody can
Yeah.
relate.
Yep. Yep. That's right too. And it sort of follows a parallel in the film too. You know, you're 20,000 years in the future, and people are not destroying each other with lasers,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
They have the swords,
Yeah.
right? And you if you really step back and think about that, it's sort of like a devolution, you know. But they've developed certain things in their culture and in their way of living that seem from the outside to be
Mhm.
way simpler than you would imagine
Mhm.
them to be. And I feel that way with the language as well. I think
Hmm.
that you know, we get so concerned with nuance, don't we, when we're communicating, and just tone, and you know, and if you try to imagine that 20,000 years in the future, you think, yeah, maybe we've figured out how to communicate that's extremely efficient
Mhm.
and nuanced to the point of almost, I mean, we probably can't even comprehend now what those specific nuances would be, right?
Mhm.
That you and I share all the time. It's better if we talk, you know, and look at each other
Yeah,
via video, isn't it?
for sure.
Then if we try to talk in email, the nuances aren't there, you
And
know.
so it's also such a cool and bold move to take like bagpipes and throat singing and those kind of sounds that you can't really think about something closely bound to a nation, but and use it in completely like ways that has no connection. To, yep,
Yeah,
at all.
I was surprised
Totally out of
about
context. And
the
it, it,
bagpipes.
it, it doesn't sound funny. Like it sounds legit.
Yeah, yeah,
It's super
and
cool. Yeah.
if you think about it, bagpipes have been, well,
Yeah,
I mean, they came from
for
Central
a long
Europe,
time, I guess.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just need a skin of goat or something and some wood.
right,
Here you go. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So I mean, that's stitched right into the fabric of this whole tale. You know,
Mhm,
this
mhm.
is the what has survived for 20,000 years. Well, bagpipes. Thank God. I remember when that scene happened. They walked off of the ship, and the bagpipes started. I went, unbelievable. I have Scots Irish blood, you know, so and I'm Celtic, you know, so all my German Scots Irish blood just kind of got really warm when I heard that. And all right, that's a great choice. I love it. I love it. So
That's super cool. Well,
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Thank you for your time, really.
You're quite welcome, Dimitri. I'm really happy to meet you
Me too.
and to follow your career. So let's keep in touch. All right.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Good.
Bye
Good,
bye.
Dimitri.
Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Take care.